Hey guys, welcome. It's your girl Jo here, back at you with another video. For those guys who are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Jo, and this is a channel where we have open discussions through books and film. But for today, this is going to be a special treat for you guys because this video is going to be a book review and film review of James Baldwin's If Beale Street Could Talk. For those guys who have not heard of this book, I did mention it in my two last videos when I did for Kwanzaa Reflect-a-thon, and this was the last book that I finished in 2018, so naturally it's going to be the first book and film that I review for 2019. For those guys who have not heard of this book is about Tish and Fonnie, two lovers who grew up in the streets of Harlem in the late 60s, and they fell in love. They have plans to get married and find a loft in New York until Fonnie is separated from Tish and is wrongly accused and arrested and put in prison for a crime he did not commit. So the entire book is basically Tish and her family trying to prove his innocence and get him out of there before Tish gives birth to their first child. Overall, I will tell you that this book is definitely one of my favorites. I love it so much. This is not the first James Baldwin book that I've read, but it is the first one that I have completed, believe it or not. It's just so full of philosophical prose. It is so intimate and still has that Baldwin-esque feel to it that you love, that you grow to love reading his work. And I love this book so much. It is heart-wrenching and yet beautiful and sensual. If you have not read this book, I highly recommend that you do read it. And if you have not seen the film, go and watch the film. It is out in selected theaters. It is a film directed by Barry Jenkins, the same director who directed Moonlight, and it is a phenomenal piece of work. It is something that everybody should experience. This is a book everybody should read. If you do not like spoilers, please pause this video, go watch it, go read the book, and come back. If you don't mind spoilers, then keep on watching. So I'm going to start off with the book. One of the things that I love about this book is the play on the timeline. There is a lot of jumping around because most of the book is on backstory of how it led them to the present point, and basically her remembering her relationship with Fonnie, her kindling romance, her budding romance and friendship with Fonnie, and how they became basically one in their union. We learn about how they were separated on the night that she loses her virginity to him, and of course this is the very same night is pregnant with their child, and we see the events leading up to Fonnie's arrest. We see the people in their lives and how they reflect the realistic depiction of that time of black men being wrongly accused of crimes that they did not commit or for petty crimes and given unjust sentences. This is a phenomenon that is spoken at length in 13th, the documentary by Ava DuVernay, so I will put a trailer on top. If you have not heard of it, please go. I recommend that you watch it because I did watch it yesterday after seeing this film and reading this book, and it definitely fills in a lot of gaps. If you do not know about the 13th Amendment, it was actually the amendment that abolished slavery in this country, but has a loophole that everyone is abolished but for those punished for crime. So with that being in mind, this is the very thing that James Baldwin plays with in this book. We see that with Fonnie, the fear and the realistic depiction of black men being afraid of being incarcerated and living in these horrible positions. Fonnie is a poor man. He tries to make a living for himself through working different odd jobs, trying to support his life so that he can be independent and allow Tish to become his wife and live with him. He is dedicated to his craft. He is an amateur sculptor, I should say, but he does it with stolen materials because that is all he can get, and he tries to make himself independent and tries to make himself not another number, and we see that throughout the book. But what we see also is that the system is all encompassing and all devouring, and he is sucked into the system nonetheless. One of the central themes of this book, which is another thing that I love, is that the book focuses on what I would coin as the queerness of brotherly love, of fraternity. And what I mean by queerness, I mean the strangeness and alien feeling almost of seeing the relationship between men. And James Baldwin, as a lot of people know, he was gay, but he wrote about men and wrote about the relationship and friendships of men in a way that is so full of intimacy and understanding, in a way that I think can appear even strange even to a woman. And he even directly says that in this book, especially living in a culture where that is frowned upon, where, you know, I remember growing up and hearing guys saying that, no homo, like they will say that's a term. Even now people still say it. It's like men are afraid of connection with another man, and that is definitely explored in this book so beautifully and so intimately that it even gets to the very, very root of what love is. We feel the love of Tish's family as they try so hard to claim Fonny's innocence, and we see that despite the tragic and economic and social context of this book, we feel that with every action that they do, and the way that Tish, even in herself, becomes independent through this really harsh circumstance that she's in, of being pregnant and figuring out how she's going to raise a child without the father figure in her life and taken away from her, essentially. We see the beautiful stature of black men in this book, with Fonny, his father, Tish's father, these great role models of men who are not afraid to do whatever it takes to protect the people in their life that they love, and respect that they have for the people that they love, including the women, which is so incredibly important. We also see through that love the fundamental circle of crime, but we see that crime is used in this kind of desperation. We see that with the lack of money that they have to pay the lawyer to do his job. We see that with the way that it's so hard for them to even afford an apartment or even find an apartment through racial housing discrimination. That's also played on in this book. And even see how the father started with crime to have the families that they have and be able to live the way that they have done and do those kind of sacrifices. There is even a point in this book where we do get into the prison itself, and we do see it within Fonny's mind just for a microsecond, but in that moment we feel the lack of dignity and broken downness of a once great man. And that is the power of the American prison system and what it can do to these young, beautiful black and brown men, any men that are wrongfully accused or given harsh punishments for petty crimes and not allowed to grow and have a life for themselves. And so I really enjoyed this book. I think it's a book that everyone should read, and the movie itself does take an artistic liberty with this as well. The movie is directed by Barry Jenkins, the same director of Moonlight, and there are just so many things that I would love to say about the film. It is theme-wise, narrative-wise, just so elaborate, and yet at the same time intimate and humble. Like, there are just so many contradictions. There are so many juxtapositions of suffering and yet moments of joyfulness and clarity, many moments of intimacy and yet at the same time distant and coldness. I mean, every scene is played out that way, and we see it stylistically with the color palette of the film, the film picture that we're seeing. We see this with the juxtaposition of the different dialogue and what's being said, what's being unsaid. We see this with the music at times that's always haunting in the background. I had a friend of mine who said that she found it incredible when something in the film will be going on, like in terms of music, and then right under that you'll hear the score of the film, and that adds that kind of haunting and yet beautiful and tranquility throughout the film that just pieces it together beautifully. The actors in this film are incredible. Stephen James is beautiful in this film as Fonny. I could not stop looking at him and marveling at how beautiful of a man he is. The fathers in this film, the Regina King, even the girl who played Tish, and Ernestine, the woman who played Fonny's mother. Like, I felt that performance, and the sisters. Like, every actor in this film was so beautifully cast and perfect, just like Moonlight. Each and every person encapsulates their character perfectly. Theme-wise, there's even a scene in the film where Fonny is giving the mother a statue, and in the book we know for sure that it is a man. We know it's a figurine. It's actually my best friend Jonathan that told me this. He thought that it was very interesting that Jenkins chose to make his statues unrecognizable. You don't really know what he's trying to do with it. You just assume that it's some abstract piece that maybe is up for interpretation. But what I took from that scene, and what I think Jenkins did, was that he visually wanted to show how lost Fonny was, and also encompass his fate at the very, very same time. Fonny is an amateur sculptor. He never had any formal training, which is fine because there are artists that have not gotten formal training and are become great artists. But for him, there is no basics where he can create something completely authentically his own. And I think the entire film, he's struggling to come up with that statue. He's trying to figure out what it is he wants to do with that pile of rock and stone, and he's not even sure what it's going to become. That is the reason why we have that beautiful scene, and it's my favorite scene of the film, where Fonny is smoking a cigarette. Very sensual scene too. You can see his beautiful muscles, his dark skin, his full lips. You can see everything, and he's studying this stone and not sure what to do with it. He's sketching at it. He's thinking about it. He's turning. He's going in all these different directions. And there's also other scenes where we are forced to look at the statue itself and try to make sense of what is it he's trying to make. And I think, at least for me, the way I interpret it is that he's unable to make it because he cannot see. He cannot see his future. He cannot see where he's going. He cannot see what he's doing. Therefore, he has no place. He has no destination. And I think that that's, what the statue encompasses. At the end, he never does anything. It's still a bunch of rocks and stone stapled together. That's all it is. And he's unable to make anything from it. It is haunting because it foreshadows his future in the incarceration system and being in this perpetual limbo of not being an American citizen anymore, of having his rights revoked, of being just another number, and being a slave to whatever it is that happens within the depths and bowels of the prisons. And I think that is so incredibly dark, and yet at the same time Jenkins relates that all through that beautiful scene. I mean, we see that we don't need to hear it, we don't need to see it. There's no action sequence going on. We just feel it in that scene. There are these moments in the film where you are forced to look at the character in their eyes, and a lot of times it makes it unnerving for you. It's in a way that I've never seen Black actors on film before. But you have these stills where you're looking straight in their face and their eyes, and you can't look away. You're looking at their emotion, whether it's from this angle or the side angle or up or down. You're forced to look at them, feel everything that they're feeling in that moment, whether it's good or tragic or even haunting. I'm talking about that scene with Daniel. For those guys who have seen the film, you know exactly what scene I'm talking about, when he's reflecting his time in jail, and you can only imagine with what is not being said in that scene what he went through. Even in this film, we see the complexities of people that are outside of the Black experience. So for instance, with Officer Bell's character, he is symbolizing the American prison system. He is unforgiving, he is dangerous, and he is violent. In the book, actually, we learned that he was moved from another precinct because he killed a young Black boy. Oh, he was indicted, of course, and is moved. And that is the reason why we find him in the same area as Fonny and Tish. And of course, his persistence to arrest Fonny by any means necessary. With the lawyer, Hayward's character, He is just a working man with a family, someone who has taken Fonny's case. He believes that he is innocent, but he doesn't necessarily understand the hardships of what the family is going through. And just with his affiliation with the case, he is isolated by his other counterparts that are against him for taking on this case, and we see how he's affected by that. It's only mentioned in the film and it is only mentioned in the book, but we can kind of see people who are white, who are allies, how they can also be ostracized by just the fear of other people and the racism that is embedded within that culture. And then of course we see it with the young Jewish guy, I forgot his name, but he owns the building in which Fonny and Tish finally find a loft. And he is kind, he is sweet, he genuinely wants the best for Tish and Fonny just because he likes them just on meeting them. In the book, we see a little bit more of his character and his relationship with Tish as he tells her that he will return the money and he will hold the loft as long as possible until Fonny gets out. We see his love and appreciation for that couple even though he doesn't know them, and that kind of shows you the different kind of people that may not understand the Black experience or experience it, but will be an aid to it. Although I do wish in the movie that we saw a little bit more of Officer Bell's character and the reason why he is the way he is, to kind of create some sort of context. Officer Bell, he's such a complex character because at the root of it, he has this genuine fear of Black men. I mean, from shooting a young 13-year-old unarmed Black boy to putting Fonny in jail for a crime he didn't commit. I mean, this guy believes in what he is doing and believes that it is right for the area that he protects. And I think that that adds a lot more complexity and layer to the discussion of police brutality and mass incarceration. The music that played throughout the film was like a vein, and pulsating through that vein was the dialogue and what Tish was saying as she narrated the entire story. I felt and I heard James Baldwin in that theater. I heard him. It's like he's not gone. You just felt him there. His all-encompassing presence. Just like prison system swallows up Fonny, you get swallowed up in his words and his narrative. And that's what the film is. I highly recommend, if you have not seen the film, to check it out. Please watch it, and let's support films like this, films that tell stories that are so unique and so incredible and gives the medium for people like these incredible actors like Barry Jenkins, for his incredible artistic team and cinematography and writers. Let's raise them up economically and give them the forum to tell stories like this and create these kind of ways that we can talk about these issues and talk about these kind of stories and themes and create an art. I mean, it's just such a great film. I love it. James Baldwin is one of my favorite writers of all time. Barry Jenkins did not disappoint for me. He did not disappoint me. He is an incredible director, and I cannot wait to see what he does next. For those of you guys who like stories like this, there's actually another film coming out this year, which is Native Son, written by Richard Wright. Is going to actually be adapted into a film, which I'm very excited about. The guy who played Chiron in Moonlight will be playing in that film, so be excited for that. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. So let me know down below what you guys think about the film, about the book if you've read it. Let me know any other suggestions of other books by James Baldwin or other writers that maybe I have never heard of. I would love to read more books like this that are just so intimate and groveling and unique in its prose and in its content. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my first video of the new year, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.